Diana Skaya, and welcome to Face, our weekly summary of top world events, but from a Central European perspective. My guest today is TVP World Editor-in-Chief Michał Broniatowski. Michał, so glad to have you here on another edition of Face to Face.
I'm also glad.
So we've got a lot of issues to tackle, so let's get started. Now, Michał, although no concrete proof, quote unquote proof, Russia is widely suspected of being behind all the latest drone incursions over European airspace that have taken place in the past almost nearly 2 months. The latest one being over Belgian airspace. Flights were disrupted from the main airport in Brussels. And Michał, now the Belgian army issued orders to shoot down any unknown drones spotted over the country's military bases. Michał, don't you think this is happening a little bit too often? And is Europe simply slow to take this drone threat seriously? I mean, I know we've been talking about this quite a lot, but it seems as though something needs to be done.
Drones, those who are flying around airports, are that big. If you compare it to the whole Europe, it's very, very difficult to spot them and then to destroy them. And it's always difficult to do it because the munition can fall elsewhere and then harm people on the ground. So it's not easy to fight them, but I think there are military means of doing it properly, and I think sooner or later it'll be very difficult for any perpetrator to do things like that. But when we are saying that there are strong suspicions that they are Russian, well, there are indications who directly point to Russia, because so it happens that Belgium is the most attacked by these little drones disrupting their airspace and then closing the airport in Brussels, which is, can you imagine? A
hub, right?
The huge airport stopped by a few drones. They are doing it, I think, to intimidate the government of Belgium, or trying to convince them that they should not be so fast in agreeing to use Russian assets, which are...
Before we get into those Russian assets, I mean, this is a picture that we have of those frustrated passengers waiting, and all those flight cancellations that took place.
Yeah, definitely. This lady in the middle is flying to some warm place, and must be difficult for her to spend the night in the airport. The main activity now in Brussels is about freeing up these Russian assets, of which large majority is blocked in Belgium, and the Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever is posing this until Brussels provides a guarantee for him that if there is any problem in future, legal problem with this, the European Union countries will stand behind Belgium and be prepared to respond to this collectively.
And on that, I just for a moment want you to listen to what German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius had to say on the question if he believes whether or not the drones that were spotted in Belgium has anything to do with those frozen Russian assets. Let's listen in.
We all see it that way, and so do the Belgians. It's a measure designed to create uncertainty and fear in Belgium. Don't you dare touch the assets. There's no other way to interpret it.
So, Michał, do you think it's a form of pressure linked to that issue?
Luckily, Mr. Minister from Germany is saying the same thing that I suspect. And, the problem is very, very serious, because if European Union fails to support Ukraine, and it seems that now the EU is the only organization which is capable of supporting directly Ukraine after the US have gone away, in the absence of any other beneficiaries. And
The EU has to step in.
yes, and then Ukraine is facing already in February, since February next year, is facing the end of financing from their budget, which means pensions, health service, or whatever obligations that the budget has towards its citizens. Not to mention, of course, military efforts to defend the country. Actually, this $140 billion, which EU is trying to convince Belgium to release, will be able to provide a sort of safety net for Ukraine for the next 3 years.
Michał, if we speak of assets, and we're speaking of Russian assets, I think it's important to say here that freedom of travel, in my view, is also considered quite an important, if not one of the most important and crucial assets. Now, the EU is also preparing to tighten, more visa rules for Russian citizens, and effectively going to end the issuance of multi-entry Schengen visa permits in most cases. Walk us through what that means exactly. What are Russians going to experience?
The way to get into Schengen zone, which is more or less European Union, there are more countries in Schengen than in the EU. If you arrange a Hungarian visa, or probably now Slovak visa, with the countries which are rather friendly towards Russia, you can then travel around Europe, and then usually these visas are multi-entry. So it's a way of getting into Europe, even if we don't want these citizens to be here. So the change will be to, first of all, very strictly make them one entry visa, because of course if they get in, they have the right to travel freely around the Schengen zone. There's also a plan to limit Russian diplomats from traveling freely between countries.
Borders, right?
They have to notify their country of residence.
This is part of the 19th sanctions package.
Yeah.
You also did mention, Michał, a little earlier before we were speaking about gun war. I think you should tell us about that and actually explain this to our viewers on what does this actually mean, gun war. I mean, what is a Russian word, for those of you who don't know, what it actually means thief in Russian, right?
Yes, well, this occurred to me today when I was just preparing to this meeting, that a company which was created by a very close friend of Putin, Mr. Timchenko, in 2020, when even before the president Putin was elected president, but he was already...
he knew he would be elected president. Let's just put it that way.
Before the elections, he was only nominee of former president Boris Yeltsin. And this gun war company has started to be, one of the largest traders in the world, mostly in oil and gas. It was co-owned by Timchenko and a Swedish citizen, but after Russian invasion, Timchenko disappeared, and now they are claiming that this company has nothing to do with the Kremlin. Of course it has. Timchenko is the main banker of Mr. Putin. And
what are the numbers we're talking about?
They were supposed to buy Lukoil assets, which are now under sanctions from the United States, and they offered $22 billion to buy it all. There are lots of refineries here and there, gas stations, and so on. And when Americans said that they don't agree for that, Ganvor gave up on their bid, and now probably very sad end is awaiting Lukoil, Russian largest private oil company. But again, this gun war occurred to me today. It's gun and war. which
right?
is
Thief.
which is a thief in Russian, and very serious thief, and so funny, but of course, no illusions.
Let's move on to our next topic that I want to tackle. I mean, you're talking about, what awaits this person, but I want to ask you, what is going to await Zelensky or Petro Poroshenko? Now, I want us to listen to to read a quote by former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko. Now, this is what he said. Michał, as we fight Russian autocracy, we can't afford to drift towards autocratic practices at home. Ukraine does not have the luxury of losing its independence, but neither does it have the luxury of losing its democracy. Michał, why is Poroshenko lashing out at Zelensky? Shouldn't Ukrainians right now be united more than ever?
Poroshenko has lots of personal reasons to criticize President Zelensky. He lost the election against him, but of course, a part of his private reasons, there are much wider reasons to insist that Mr. Zelensky observes more tightly the rule of law. Poroshenko and several other opposition figures, and especially billionaires who own big property, are under so-called sanctions from the president.
So it means they can't leave Ukraine?
Well, they can't leave Ukraine. They can't use their accounts. Actually, they cannot make officially any business without any court
order. Right?
Court order. It's just sanction issued by the presidential office. We have to be absolutely clear on this. This is dictatorial.
On behalf of
the presidential office and Mr. Zelensky, and the result of it has been spotted by the European Union, to which Kiev is knocking, wants to enter it, and then the special commission created by the Euro Commission said in its yearly report that Ukraine is well on its path towards joining the Union, but it needs to improve its rule of law record.
And it did say, to add to that Ukraine must urgently reverse negative trends in the fight against corruption. What does that mean exactly?
Oh, it's we were talking about it in the past. It was this failed attack on independence of some anti-corruption bodies, and which, when I'm saying fail, means that Mr. Zelensky had to reverse on his decisions to curb their independence, and but it was noted, and Ukraine, according to Brussels, must be much more decisive in its fight against corruption. Doesn't mean that the country is not fighting yet. It's making lots of efforts. I know Ukraine. I know how it looked a decade ago, and today it's a completely different country. But still, it's not up to the standards that are expected by countries joining the European Union.
Michał, I want to head on over to another country, a close neighbor, the Czech Republic, Michał. So Czech billionaire, Prime Minister designate Andrej Babiš, right, has signed a coalition agreement with his right-wing allies. His annual party is joining forces with climate change skeptics, Eurosceptics, the Motorists Party, and the anti-EU Freedom and Direct Democracy movement. He does say that he wants to form a new government before the end of this year, which is coming in less than 2 months. Michał, would you call this a stable coalition that would be formed?
Such coalitions usually are stable because the two weaker partners are afraid of new elections. So they will agree for many things that will be imposed on them.
Afraid of new elections?
Yes.
Why do you say that?
Well, if they quit the the coalition, new elections would have to be called, because on his part, Mr. Babiš doesn't want coalition with center and center-left parties. They are, yes, Eurosceptics, but I don't think they will have devastating, from our point of view, influence on the Czech foreign policy. They will probably enforce the policy of discontinuing direct support by Czech Republic of Ukraine, support with munitions especially. But part of that doesn't seem that the Czech government will join Orban in his destructive activities inside the European Union, in Brussels, when he's constantly imposing or threatening with a veto on the EU enlargement or sanctions against Russia or support for Ukraine. I don't think this will be the policy of the new government, given these statements and of members of this coalition.
So do you think he will have a strong approach towards Ukraine?
Well, they will not send them munitions as they did, but I think a part of that there will be no other changes, and then there are openings on the part of Babiš surroundings towards Polish government, and please note that there are no critical statements of the Polish government about the new coalition created in Czech Republic.
Now let's move on to Serbia. Michał, quite a lot of chaos happening in Europe. On November 1st, of course, Michał, Serbia marked its first anniversary of the train station in Novi Sad, which collapsed, killing 16 people. We had a correspondent that was there on site on that anniversary. I had a great live session with him from the studio. I want to ask you this now. Suddenly, we see Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić a year later offering to advance parliamentary elections. Michał, what can we expect from Serbia in the next few months, and what made Vučić change his mind?
Offering early elections doesn't mean that he's calling early elections. Of course, he's just sort of agreeing to
the pressure?
Yes, he's surrendering to the pressure from the street. It doesn't mean that he will hold his word. So far, he says that he wants to do it. Probably it doesn't apply to the president himself. He may be talking about early parliamentary elections, and it's possible he may call these elections in 1 year time ahead of the expected expo in Belgrade, which he will not want any street clashes. So,
but that's my question to you, Michał. I mean, don't you think that he's tired after 1 year of mass demonstrations? I mean, these are the demonstrations that personally I haven't seen before.
Tired? It's not the word you would use in politics.
But I mean, he is pressured, right?
He may be threatened, but he doesn't feel threatened. I think it's just playing the game. This opposition doesn't have a leadership. This opposition is very visible, and it's very colorful, but still it's not capable at the moment to topple the government. So he can play with all his promises, say that he regrets, that he will not, of course, because he's now in his second time, he will not run for presidency, but he will propose some of his men to become the replacement. He's in control, strong in control.
Thank you so much, Michał, for all your insights here with us. And thank you for watching Face to Face. We'll see you here next week, and do stay on with TVP World for more news and analysis. See you next time.